Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. This is a very expensive palette. I have never owned a Natasha Denona palette before. I'm very excited to be a palette owner because I feel like it's a prestige club, but I feel like this is not affordable and justifiable to everyone, especially not me. So I took it upon myself to sort through my collection. I don't know what this was. To try and find some dupes for you that you may already have in your collection or that are significantly more affordable that you can be able to go out and purchase them and achieve similar looks without too much detriment to your wallet. So the look I have on my eyes today is actually half the Natasha Denona palette and then half mostly Colourpop. So this eye is Natasha Denona, this eye is Colourpop, and they're pretty similar. This one blended a lot easier, but they're not terribly different, especially because this eye, the Colourpop eye, is my potato eye, which doesn't blend as nicely. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy this video and I really hope you find it helpful, and we can jump into the tutorial portion and then I will give you my review as well as some dupes. Timestamps will be below if you want to skip to a certain portion of the video. So let's get started. All right, so let's get started. I have no idea what I want to do for this look, so if this look turns out super basic, please don't hate me. I'm just trying my best. So going into the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette, I'm gonna start off with the shade. I'm gonna start out with this shade here called Carnelian. I have no idea how to pronounce that. She's got some funky names in some of her palettes, let me tell you. And I'm going to use a Morphe E27 brush. Just grabbing a bit of product. These are pretty powdery actually. And I'm just going to fluff this around in my crease. It's pigmented and it's very soft. This is the first impressions, by the way, on the Natasha Denona palette because I just got it yesterday and I've never used her eyeshadows before, so you're gonna see a genuine reaction. Yeah, this is pretty effortless to work with. This shade anyways. It's pretty nice. So I'm gonna use the same brush, but I'm going to wipe it off on a color switch. If I can open it, there we go. Because I want to, you know, do the same thing on each eye so we can really compare how everything's performing. So I have the list of dupes in my phone and I'm just going to see what my dupe is for that shade. Colourpop Sequoia. So that's from the California Love palette. I made sure to choose all palettes that are still available on the Colourpop website. So I'm going into the shade Sequoia here, and I'm going to do the same thing on this eye. This is definitely not as easy to blend as the Natasha Denona shadows, which I mean was completely expected if I'm being honest, but this is also my potato eye and that just means that it doesn't blend as nicely as this eye. I probably should have done the Natasha Denona on this side just because I know that this eye doesn't blend as well. That wasn't very good thinking on my part, but whatever. I'm just gonna add a little more to this side because I got a bit carried away with this shadow. I'm going to go in with this warm brown shade, warm reddy brown shade here called Jasper. So I'm going to use this on a Sigma E25 brush and I'm just going to blend this a little lower into the crease. Also, just noting, neither side has fallout at this point, so that's pretty good, I guess. And then I'm just going to go back in with, oh, I gotta wipe this off. I'm just gonna go back in with my E27 brush and just kind of buff that around to blend it. Okay, so for this dupe, I am going to use the Alamar Cosmetics palette. This is the Reina del, I can't say that in an accent, Reina del Caribe Volume 1. I'm going in with this shade here called Tropico, just because I personally like this formula better, but there is a dupe in the Colourpop Fortune palette, and that is the shade Riche. So if you have either, both will work. They're both pretty much dead on dupes for the Jasper shade. So I'm just grabbing this on the same brush. And I'm going to do the same thing on this eye. I feel like that one was almost more pigmented than the Natasha one. That's strange. I feel like that one blended better. What? Yeah, because I have these little lines happening, which does happen sometimes, even with good quality shadows. I can fix it, but I'm just gonna go back into the shade Jasper and try to blend this a little more so it can match that eye. This side was definitely more pigmented. Wow, that's crazy. Alamar, you are killing it. I don't know if it's more pigmented with like finger swatches, but it definitely applied more pigmented on the eye. Okay, so this is the situation we have going on right now. They're pretty similar. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do is go into this shade here called Glory, and it's like a pinky purple that's a little deeper. I'm gonna grab this on a Morphe Y18 brush. I don't know if I want to do a halo eye or... Oh wow, that's beautifully pigmented. Wow. Yeah, maybe I'll do like a little halo action. Why not? So I'll apply it to the inner corner as well, and I'll just connect it just a tiny smidge through the center. So for the dupe for that Glory shade, I have the color Trove by Colourpop. This is in the Fortune palette, and they're pretty similar. Another good dupe in a palette. This one is a more expensive palette, but a lot of people already have it. It's Anastasia Beverly Hills Love Letter, and it's in the Modern Renaissance palette. So I'm gonna use the Colourpop one just because I want to, and I'm gonna take Trove and I'm just going to do the same thing. Yeah, so this one, you can definitely notice the difference where it's not as pigmented, but I think it's definitely buildable. Yeah, you can really see the difference in pigmentation. Well, at least I can. This is the side with the Natasha Denona shadows, and then this is the dupe side. So I'm going to try and build this Colourpop shadow up just a little more. Now I am going to just grab a little bit of concealer and cut the crease on both eyes. And when I said cut the crease, I meant cut the center of the lid, cut the halo. It's not a term, but we're gonna make it a term, okay? And then for the center of my lid, I am going to go in with this light pinky champagne with a little bit of purple kind of shade called Awakening. I'm just gonna take this on a little flat synthetic brush. Now I'm just going to take a teeny weeny little brush and grab a little more of the shade Glory. Oh my gosh, my nose is so itchy. Do you ever get that where your nose just gets like really, really itchy? Like all of a sudden it just comes out of nowhere. Anyways, I'm just going to grab a little more of that purpley shade Glory, and I'm going to kind of place it on top of that shimmer shade to kind of blend the two together. Okay, and the dupe I have for that shade is also in the Colourpop Fortune palette, and it is the shade Miser. Miser? I don't know. I think the Natasha Denona one is more reflective. Just a little bit. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this little brush and go into the shade Trove just to blend the two and add a little bit more color. Just a little side note, this Trove shade is getting a little patchy on the outer corner here. I don't know why, but it's not really sticking to one area and it's kind of annoying me. So I'm just going to try and cover that up with more shimmer. It's not working. Someone help. Someone send help. Okay, this shade is really hard to blend in with the shimmer shades, whereas with the Natasha Denona palette, the blending of these two shades was much easier. And I'm gonna dampen my brush a little bit so that I can just try to get a little more intensity out of that shimmer shade, just because it's not as metallic and reflective as I want it to be, and it's not as reflective as the other side. So I'm gonna try and get them even. I'll try my best. Oh god, I think that just made it worse. Maybe if I apply it with my finger. Oh yeah, that's not the same at all. It's swatched very similarly with fingers, but on the lid it's not really translating to a similar color. Oh well. Then I'm gonna do a little bit of brow bone highlight action, and I'm gonna go in with the shade Laurel for this. It's just a light champagne color, and I'm just gonna highlight the brow bone with this. I don't know why I sang that. I find I sing all of my tutorials or videos. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. So sorry, I'm like crazy annoying. It's a little dark for me, but it'll do. And the dupe I have for that one is in Alamar La Costa. I'm gonna go back into the Alamar palette and use the shade La Costa, which is similar. It's a little more pink and a little bit lighter than Laurel, but if you're looking for specifically a Colourpop dupe, in the Fame palette, the shade The Most is a nice one. If you already have those palettes, you can use those as dupes. This one's a better brow bone color for me because it is a little bit lighter. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to put my foundation and concealer and my eyeliner and stuff on, and then we can move on to the lower lash line so I can test out more dupe shades. Okay, so now that my concealer, foundation, eyeliner is on, I am going to go back into my Sunrise palette, and I think for the lower lash line I'm going to use the shade Morgan. It's like a peach, and I think I'm going to use a little bit of Clove really close to the lower lash line. So I'm going to start off with Clove and just keep that really tight to the lashes. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of Morgan, and I'm just gonna blend that Clove shade out. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of that orange shade Carnelian, and I'm just going to kind of connect to where the upper lid color is. I have no idea if that made sense. I'm just going to connect them. And then I'm going to do the other side. So let's see what dupes we have here. So for the color Clove, I have the Alamar palette, and I'm going to use the shade Guantanamera. Oh man, I'm so butchering that. I'm so sorry. It's this one right here. And I'm going to do the same thing and just apply this super tight to the lash line. Oh. Trying not to poke myself in the eye. And then for the shade Morgan, I have a dupe from Colourpop. This is also from the Fortune palette, and it is in the shade Wiser right there. And I'm just gonna do the same thing. And then I'm also going to connect it, and I'm going to use the orange from Colourpop, the shade Sequoia, and just use that on the outer corner to connect what we have going on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the rest of my face, pop on some lashes, and then we can swatch all of the dupes and you can hear my thoughts on this palette. Okay, so face is done and lashes are on. I am wearing the House of Lashes Olivia Lash. It's a collection with Sephora that they're launching in the fall. I don't know if they're available yet. I can't tell if I love them yet, but I think I like them. I was gonna do my hair today, and then I was like, no, I don't think so. That's literally the story of my life. I can't remember the last time I actually did my hair. This eyelash is poking me. Okay, so I wanted to do like a quick rundown of what I think of this palette. This is the, obviously, Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. It comes with 15 shades. It retails for 85 Canadian dollars. $85. And her normal palettes run for 129 Canadian dollars. Let me confirm that. Okay, so this palette is 86 Canadian dollars, correction, and her palettes are 170 Canadian dollars. 170. I can't even fathom that. That's insane. Okay, so let's break down the price. So although this palette will run you quite a bit of money, overall it costs $4.47 per gram of product for this palette. The reason that this is less expensive than her other palettes is because this palette has fewer grams in it. So if you buy a full size, you know, 170 Natasha Denona palette, you're gonna get a lot more product. So this particular palette will cost you $4.47 per gram of product, whereas if you got a full size $170 palette, it'll be $4.53 per gram of product. So basically the same. It's off by a couple cents. So honestly, I think for me personally, I would much rather her come out with more of these this size, because your girl cannot afford a $170 eyeshadow palette. I just can't. And even if I could, I don't know that I would want to. I don't know. Since I have such an extensive makeup collection as it is, I would prefer to have the same amount of shades with less product, because I personally find it so hard to go through an eyeshadow as it is. So I would much rather pay for a, you know, smaller amount of product, because I'm probably not going to go through it anyways. I just wanted to compare it to some other palettes. So for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette, it's $5.87 per gram. So per gram, Anastasia is actually more expensive. And then the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette, which is also an $86 Canadian palette, has more product in it and will run you $3.41 per gram. And then I thought I'd do Colourpop, because a lot of my dupes are Colourpop. So for Colourpop, for example, for the, where is it? Oh, right here, right in front of me. For the California Love palette, this comes with 12 shades. Wow, that was definitely not my brightest moment. So these will cost you $1.58 per gram, so significantly more affordable even if you break it down per gram. But when you break it down per gram, it's not crazy unreasonable. It's fairly standard and the quality is good. So this particular palette is cruelty free, it is not vegan, and it is free of parabens. I want to point out, because this was a misconception that I had. I was under the impression that Natasha Denona shadows were talc free. That is not the case. This does contain talc. You can take that for what you will, because talc is apparently cheaper than mica. There is mica in these shadows as well. However, a lot of people might have an issue justifying $86 for a talc eyeshadow. I personally don't think that's an issue, but I am not an ingredient specialist. I just wanted to throw that out there because I know some people are trying to go talc free. So there are 3 finishes in this palette: matte, duochrome, and metallic. I don't know why my brain's like just shutting off randomly. And I feel like this palette is decently unique. For example, specifically the duochrome shades, I had a hard time duping them. I didn't have anything in my collection that was similar. And since I have such an extensive makeup collection, it's definitely easier to justify spending so much money on a palette when I don't have anything like it in my collection. Especially this purple shade right here, Aster, I could not find a dupe. You'll see in my swatches, I do have a dupe, but it's not a good dupe. The 2 I probably had the hardest time duping were Aster and Azalea. The rest, especially this kind of realm of the palette over here, I had a fairly easy time duping. The mattes pretty much were all extremely dupeable. I found those dupes in like 10 minutes. So I would definitely say that what you are paying for is the uniqueness of the shimmer shades and also the quality of all of the shades. The mattes are super buttery and really easy to blend, and the shimmers are super metallic, ultra reflective, and really easy to work with. So overall, would I recommend this palette? If you're in the market for something luxurious, then yes. I think if you're gonna go for a neutral palette and you're looking for something luxurious and you know you're gonna use it all the time, I would go for one of the full-size palettes even, but since I know that that's not the case for me, I think this size palette was awesome. But do I think it's necessary? No. Do I think it's super unique? No. I don't know if it's $86 unique. Like, would I recommend it if you're already thinking about it and you can justify the purchase? Yes, I think it's good quality and I think you'd be happy with your purchase. However, do I think it's absolutely necessary? Like, you need this? No, because I found so many similar colors in the palette fairly quickly and easily. And that's just my collection. I don't have a lot of eyeshadow palettes well, I do. That's a lie. Relative to what I used to have is what I was trying to say, because I recently decluttered a lot of shit. So I just got rid of a lot of stuff and I'm kind of, you know, left with not as much to work with. However, I still found an easy time duping most of these shadows. Again, I would just say the shimmery duochrome ones were a little bit trickier, but I think you can still achieve a similar look with something that's maybe slightly different. Anyways, so that is my little spiel on what I think about the palette. So now I am going to my voice, it keeps cracking. So now what I'm going to do is give you some swatches of the shades in the palette as well as the associated dupes that I found. Most of them are Colourpop. There are a few that are not. And I figured some of these palettes are ones that a lot of you guys most likely already have if you're a huge makeup enthusiast, because they're very popular palettes and they were on social media a lot. So that's kind of my reasoning behind it. Like, I have the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette in one of the dupes, but that's just because that's such a popular palette that a lot of people might already have it in their collection like I did. Okay, so without further ado, let's get on to the dupes. So going from left to right, top to bottom, we have the shade Poppy, and the dupe I found is in the Violet Voss Berry Burst palette. The shade doesn't have a name, but it's just the darker berry color. Also, Huda Beauty Turkish Delight from the Desert Dusk palette is very similar. Then we have the color Citrine, and the dupe that I found is the Colourpop eyeshadow in Oh Behave from the Aha Honey palette. Next up is the shade Phlox, and this was actually the only shade that I couldn't really find a good dupe for. So I'm really sorry, but everything I had was a lot rustier than this or way too bright. So this is the one shade in the palette that I just couldn't dupe. Then we have the shade Awakening, and the dupe I found is Colourpop Miser or Retrograde from the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. Then we have the shade Laurel, and the dupe I found, though not an exact dupe, is La Costa by Alamar Cosmetics. Next we have the shade Aster, and this was also a very difficult shade for me to dupe. I ended up finding that Huda Beauty Twilight from the Desert Dusk palette and Colourpop Big Ego Jelly Matte Shadow to be the most similar. And while I was browsing the Colourpop website, I noticed that the shade Do or Do by Colourpop in the It's My Pleasure palette also looks like it may be similar. Next we have the shade Glory, which was surprisingly dupeable. I found the color Trove by Colourpop or Anastasia Beverly Hills Love Letter, or there is also a shade in the Violet Voss Berry Burst palette. Next we have the shade Azalea, which was very similar to the shade Rax by Colourpop in the Fortune palette. Then we have the shade Morgan, and the dupe I found for this was also in the Colourpop Fortune palette, and it's the shade Wiser. Next we have the shade Agate, and the closest dupes by Colourpop that I could find were the shades Cruisin' from the California Love palette or Oracle from the Fortune palette. Next we have the shade Clove, and the closest dupe I found to that is by Alamar Cosmetics, and it's in the shade Guantanamera. Next we have the shade Carnelian, and the closest dupe that I could find is the shade Sequoia in the Colourpop California Love palette. Next we have the shade Jasper, and the closest dupe that I could find is also by Alamar, and it's called Tropico. Also the shade Riche in the Colourpop Fortune palette. Then we have the shade Morning, and the closest dupes that I could find were Colourpop Laguna from the California Love palette or Ben from the Fortune palette. And finally we have the shade Day Spring, and the closest dupe that I could find to that is Colourpop Surf Rider from the California Love palette or Stacks from the Fortune palette. So the palettes that I did get the most shades from were the California Love palette and the Fortune palette by Colourpop. I also threw in some Alamar Cosmetics because I know a lot of people have and love this palette, and as well as the Huda Beauty palette because a lot of people do already own this, and really I couldn't find a dupe for the purple without using this. I also used the Colourpop single in Big Ego to dupe the purple shade, but again, not an exact dupe. So these shades are pretty unique, but they definitely are dupeable with things that you may already have at home. So that's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative a little bit and, you know, helped you make a decision on whether or not you'd like to purchase this palette, because it is a big decision. The only reason I was able to justify it is because I got a coupon for $100 off my order with my points. That's the only way I could justify this purchase. I probably would not buy this in a million years if it had not been for that coupon. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please subscribe if you have not yet, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!